Hi, everyone. This is episode 3 of Working Women, a podcast covering career readiness, job hunting best practices, and how to overcome obstacles, particularly as women in the workplace. I'm Heather Kazad, founder of Kazad Events and Communications, which serves mission-driven organizations and small businesses looking to reach their audiences in creative ways. And with me is the ever-lovely, ever-talented Neera Dossberner, Executive Director of the Cabell County Medical Society, a community network of West Virginia doctors. Hey, Neera.
Oh, well, thank you for that intro and hello.
If you've been with us before, welcome back. If this is your first time tuning in, you picked a great time to join because today we're tackling the human element of job searching, which is interviewing and how to present yourself professionally.
Right. Our first two episodes were more about the analytical side, the process, the research, but the troubles we face in our working lives are usually based on human perception. Did I come across as cold? Do I sound arrogant? Is this outfit office appropriate?
I think most of us second guess ourselves in these situations because we don't often get feedback in the moment. We might get ghosted by an interviewer and never know why it didn't work out. The only thing we can do is put our best foot forward and try to understand some of those workplace subtleties that usually remain unspoken. And now that we've talked about all the ways to land an interview, what do you do once you're actually in the room?
I want to be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens. Sorry, brief Hamilton there.
Yeah, I mean, we were all thinking it. At least I was, because as you know, when a song comes to mind, I just kind of have to get it out there too. So I'm glad Neera took that bullet for me.
I did it.
So, some obvious interview pointers are one, make sure you show up on time. If it's virtual, be ready to log in right on time or a minute or so early. If it's in person, be there 5 to 10 minutes early. Any earlier, and you might be in the way or just kind of like waiting awkwardly in the lobby, which nobody wants that to happen. Um, and any later and you're cutting it a little too close, looking a little bit disrespectful if you're late, wasting their time, all of that. Number 2, exude warm confidence. Give a friendly greeting with a smile, shake hands, look people in the eye, ask how their day is going without taking up too much time, and so forth. Some of these things might be more difficult for the neurodivergent folks out there, but do the best you can. You might get an understanding interviewer, but you also might not. These are the examples of some of those expected social cues that you don't know about until you're personally in the moment. 3, answer questions succinctly. You don't want to spend more than a couple minutes on any single answer. Number 4, ask questions of your own to show your interest and get a better sense of the job and the team. Number 5, make sure to thank your interviewer for their time, for sharing information, and for the opportunity. Neera, do you have any general tips to add to this list?
I think you basically said my tips. It was good. Just smile and be cheerful. Know your resume like the back of your hand and what you want to say. I'm going to add something here. One of the things that we talk about in interviewing with, whenever you're interviewing with Google or Microsoft and you have, let's say, 4 interviews, they actually say to practice in the mirror so you can see yourself, time it. I mean, it gets really into production there. So if you're doing one of those things where it is multiple interviews, you need to make sure that you are rehearsed.
Yeah. So let's jump into the details roughly in the order that things need to happen. What do you do before the interview to prepare? As Neera said, practice is a good first step. You should also refresh your memory about the open position and research the company as a whole. I'm not saying you need to know everything about them backwards and forwards, but give it a good hour of your time the day before your conversation so it's fresh. Remember that you're essentially answering the question of how you would fit into their existing structure. So you need to have a basic understanding of what that structure actually is. Neera, where do you research and what are you looking for?
I would start specifically with the company's website, the About page, and any programs or services pages that indicate what they do day to day. You want to look for resources or publications that they put out and see what they tend to promote the most on their site or social media. You might also want to do some personal digging and see what is in the media that they haven't released. You might want to dig into the company's history a bit and take a look at the current staff to see what the dynamics are in play and how their team is structured. You don't want to go into an interview knowing nothing.
Yeah, you want to have a basic understanding of what the company does, who they serve, and how they operate. Do they have a large team or a small one? Would you be joining a big department or running things yourself wearing several hats? Find what they say they value, find their mission statement. If it's a nonprofit, where do they get their funding? The better you understand how the organization works, the more you can customize your answers to prove you're who they need to fill this gap. And not only that, but you need to know that this is a place you can be happy. Once again, I want to acknowledge that sometimes you just need a paycheck, right? And sometimes you have to take whatever you can and hope the place isn't toxic. But outside of those very real situations, you want your skills going somewhere they can be useful. You want personal fulfillment and opportunities to grow. Dedicate at least some of your research and thinking time to those goals as well. Ask yourself how you can best serve this company and if it can serve you.
How do you prepare or practice for an interview when you don't know what questions they're going to ask?
Right. Yeah. So it's like a standardized test in a way. Your job is to know the material so you can be ready regardless of the individual questions. Most interviewers, especially in a first round, ask some combination of the following. One, tell me about your background. Two, tell me something you're proud of. Three, tell me about a challenge or conflict you faced and how you handled it. Four, why this position? And five, what are your goals for the next 5 or 10 years? It behooves you to have answers prepared for these questions. So think through your background and determine what examples you have. When you're nervous, sometimes your mind goes blank in the moment. Be authentic to the conversation, but have a few stories polished and ready to go. As I said before, keep your responses concise. And for me, that is particularly challenging, especially on that first tell me about yourself question, because that can mean so many things. I also tend to ramble when I'm nervous. So I have to correct myself and give a short explanation of what I did and what I'm currently doing. Interesting as it may be, you can skip the full life story here.
Well, I need to make sure I remember to do that because I also just ramble. I just get nervous and I will ramble. That is something I specifically need to work on. So let's get into it. What is the best way to answer a question like, tell me about yourself?
Yeah, so for a recent graduate, it might be something like I studied X at University Y with a particular interest in Z. I really care about A, so I'm looking for an entry level role doing B to hone my skills and grow in the field. Company C caught my attention because your work aligns with my goals. For someone with more of a work history, I recommend summarizing the last role or two, depending on length of tenure. And you should still offer some explanation of your goals and the direction you want to go. This looks more like for the past X years, I've served as the Y at company Z, where we do A. I've learned so much in this role about B and C that I'm ready to take my career to the next level. I'm looking for D roles in this industry, and I hope to continue serving customers on an even larger scale. Something like that, like 3 to 4 sentences with keywords in there about your skills, your passions, or both. Companies have to perfect their elevator pitches. Consider this your personal elevator pitch.
I love that. And I love that you used a formula in a way. You explained it in a formulaic way because that is something that I always get confused about is that in math, if you mess up the formula, you mess up the whole answer. And so I love that you put a quick little formula in there just so we can get an idea. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. And so part of that is because I don't know our listeners' backgrounds. So rather than giving an example that I'm making up, I'm just kind of letting you plug and play with what I'm working on.
Hey, the Excel spreadsheet and Google person in me loves it. So thank you. Thank you for making this easy to understand for me.
Now, moving on to the deeper questions. They're going to ask you about something you do well or for a specific example. They want you to brag here and showcase your wins. Much like when I said during the resume writing segment that we know work doesn't happen in a silo, we also still know that here in the interview process. You can show humility while still owning your successes. If you tend to underestimate yourself, if you tend to have higher than normal expectations for yourself, you might struggle with this step. So practice here, especially. Neera, refresh our memory. What are some work things that you've done in the past that you're particularly proud of?
Well, the most important thing and where it started, I would say, was my website.
Mm.
I was able to open doors that were closed to me previously. I wouldn't have gotten the attention of big names if I hadn't started thewomanwholived.com back in 2017. From there, I went on to do even bigger and brighter things. I never thought I'd be in front of executives at Hulu, but hey, I did that in 2023. Pitching myself to Roxy Reyes will forever be the highlight of my life. Having to do an interview and it be on camera and it be with all these executives and people that you recognize and know from these campaigns. Just the fact that I was in the room and I did that, I'm very proud. My website serves as my personal resume. I created it, I built it, I run and maintain it. That's my domain. It may have started from a capstone in 2017, but it got me worldwide.
Yeah. So, and you can frame that experience in a lot of different ways when you're in an interview talking about like those things that you do well, because it depends on who you're talking to, right? So my answer to this question depends on the role I'm interviewing for, because my background, much like Neera's, is a bit diverse. So for event related jobs, I talk about my most successful conference where we exceeded all previous records for attendees and revenue. For comms related jobs, I talk about launching a quarterly magazine almost completely alone, except for guidance from one very involved board member. Keep your answers relatively short here. They will likely have follow up questions about your process, how you did it, and all of those things.
On the other side of that, how do you talk about failures without giving off a bunch of red flags?
Yeah, this one definitely gives people pause because they think it's a gotcha question. And maybe it is in some cases, but most interviewers truly want to know if you're self reflective enough to recognize your mistakes. It's about ownership and correcting the mistakes when they happen, because somewhere down the line, a mistake will happen. We know that. We just kind of want to know how you react to that when it happens. And a side note here, since we're dancing around it, if an interviewer asks what your biggest weakness is, do not refuse to answer, say you don't have one, or claim you're a perfectionist or work too hard. Anybody listening to this and not seeing the video, I am doing air quotes and I'm being very snarky right now. Those are actual red flags. You're being disingenuous at best. And I promise every interviewer can see through that. I cringe just thinking about it. Like, come on, be serious right now.
But I'm too perfect.
Yeah, yeah, uh-huh, sure. That's how it feels. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. If you're asked about a failure, I recommend shooting for somewhere in the middle. You need something bigger than you forgot to take down a message for your boss, but don't volunteer illegal activity either. You want to share a story where you were able to make it right and show that you learned from the experience. Personally, I've made more than my share of mistakes that I had to deal with in the moment. especially as a newer event planner. There was just too much going on for me to double check things. Stuff got away from me, all of that. One example I like to use is the time I left out an ad in a conference program. Literally just plucked it right out there at some point in the editing process with the designer. I was so focused on text edits and making sure the room and time details were correct that I skipped over the fact that the designer pulled the ad to make space, apparently never put it back.
Oh no.
Yeah. So imagine my shock and concern when the very close partner organization pointed this discrepancy out at our registration table on site when everything else is all happening too. In event planning, you work hard to keep everyone happy. But a very key group not to anger is your paying advertisers. So, so they got a heartfelt apology from me, from our CEO, probably a board member or two. They got a full refund and they got their ad emailed as an image to all attendees the week after the conference. Luckily, these were very gracious people and they got a lot of website hits thanks to that dedicated email. So it actually probably worked out even better for them in the long run since the print ad was one of several in the program and they're the only ones who got an email afterwards. But the moral of the story, a typo isn't the end of the world, but make sure all your paid space is accounted for.
Hey, everybody makes mistakes. And I like that yours is from the past. Mine is I'm still trying to correct my mistake. And education is something to aim for. Thing that's worth it is easy.
Yeah.
And I'm having to show in the most basically humility on the internet, showing my mistake and showing that I'm back in school. I know how to get the work done. I'm at that point where I'm trying to show that I have changed and showing that I am reflective and that I messed up. And that is not a fun place to be in. I don't like this place, but I would prefer to be in it than to be stagnant and not doing anything. So progress is something, and that's what I'm working on. I won't ever be perfect, but I'm always going to be trying.
You're showing your tenacity there by keeping at it. And you're also showing a growth mindset because you're willing to assess past behavior and actions and all of that and correct what you're no longer liking about it. And it takes a really strong person to be able to do that and a self reflective person. And most people are not willing to be vulnerable enough with other people or even themselves to be that introspective. So I'm super proud of you from an emotional and a psychological perspective outside of just the productive value of continuing your education. That is important, but the fact that you're willing to assess the situation in such a way speaks volumes to you as a person.
I'm going to keep that in there because it really does make me feel good. Thank you.
You should. I mean it. Like I'm saying this to you, I'm saying it to people who are like you.
Thank you.
I truly believe that that is an important character trait.
Thank you for that, Heather. That makes me feel good because it is difficult. It's an embarrassing spot to be in when it's so public, too. But like, I want to show people that you can mess up and get better because if I can do it, you can do it too. And I'm not really good.
So
Thank you
that's a
for that.
lesson for everybody that you can always change direction. You can always reassess yourself and your work and your school and life. It's never too late to do something new and to change your mind. You can always do that as well.
Heather needs to be a motivational speaker. I'm just going to go ahead and say it.
Now to the why this position. This is pretty much your cover letter. So you've already done the work, right? You want to share what draws you to this job or company. You want to explain how it aligns with your expertise, and you want to draw a connection between this role and your goals. Once again, be authentic. Don't lay it on thick. Don't suck up. Just be real with them and keep it positive. Moving on to the personal goals part. This is a question that might appear earlier in the interview, but wherever it falls, the point is to understand you as a three-dimensional human being with goals and dreams and fears. Are your goals realistic? Do you have a plan to get there? If we hire you, are you going to be a passing ship in the night and leave in 6 months? Neera, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Sorry, because you're here. What are your professional goals for the next few years?
I would say they are to keep rising, whatever I'm doing. Whatever I find myself doing, I want to be doing it well.
Mhm.
I can see myself continuing to grow the Cabell County Medical Society. Data management is something that is so important. And when people start an organization or a business, they may not understand how data pipelines work. So I see myself continuing helping different orgs. Something I have always cared about is community and building community wherever you are. So, for instance, one of the programs I'm building out right now is the volunteer opportunities with CCMS. I was able to talk to Ebenezer Medical Outreach and connect with Faith Health Appalachia. So I'm looking forward to helping some programming with them blossom. I always wanted to be in the medical field, and I wasn't able to because of my illnesses. Now it seems that I'm able to be here through my data wrangling capabilities.
So I think now is a good time to jump into our question from the audience for today. Who do we have?
Deidre asks, what kind of questions should you ask during an interview?
Excellent question. Full stop. Because we're usually so focused on answering the interviewer appropriately that we forget this is supposed to be a two-way street. There's a certain power imbalance in the interview that we can't really ignore, but please remember you are an asset and they would be lucky to have you. A couple years ago, I was helping a friend and client prepare his resume and cover letters. I found some postings that I thought would suit him, and we were talking about the interview part. He admitted they make him nervous, and in an effort to ease his mind, I compared it to dating. Yeah, you want them to like you, but it's equally important that you like them. Do you see a future here? Will it be fulfilling? Can you grow as a person? Unfortunately, he said he's terrible at dating too, and I just horrified him even more. So, oops.
That made me laugh out loud because it really is like dating. Like, I'm in an open relationship with Microsoft. I hope they pop the question soon. But this is a brilliant and positive spin on it. And if you're not afraid of dating, dating it can be fun. You get to learn so much about so many different people. It is a good analogy that you put there. I like that.
Thank you. I also thought it was innocuous, but it was definitely not a comfort for this person who shall remain nameless. So, my bad there. Let's rewind a few minutes ago and add that to the examples of Heather screwing up. We can use that for future interview processes. But for those of you out there not terrified of dating, you have the opportunity in an interview to suss out what you need to know. Ideally, you can ask follow up questions throughout, but if nothing else, there's usually time at the end. Always have questions. I recommend preparing as many as 5 or 6 because some might get answered as you go. And while hiring process and next step questions are fine, dig deeper than that. Ask culture questions. Ask about short term and long term goals for this position. Ask how the interviewer would describe the work environment. Ask the interviewer their favorite part of the day. See what you can extrapolate about what life would be like based on their answers. Does that culture suit your working style?
My favorite question to ask is, why do you like working here? To the person who is interviewing me. And I want them to answer me genuinely and honestly. I don't want a canned corporate answer. I really want to know why. Is it the salary? Are the people nice? And they probably aren't going to answer their real reason, but how they answer the question tells you more than what they say. Reminder that they called you to check you out. So you are checking them out too. I've been to a date that seemed like it was going to be a match, but it wasn't. Asking questions also shows that you have genuine interest. Wouldn't you want to hire someone who is interested in your work?
Yep. Learn what you can about your interviewer, especially if they're on staff at the company in question. You can also get clarification on something described earlier that shows you were listening and you're curious. Some harder hitting questions include: why is this position open? Has this team experienced layoffs recently? Do you anticipate scaling back in the foreseeable future? And related things. These are the times that we're living in, and workers want security. I honestly think it's fair to ask harder questions, but some interviewers might be less than pleased to get the harder questions. That risk is entirely your call. So read the room.
Speaking of dancing around sensitive subjects, I do want to point out, particularly for the early career people, that it is illegal for employers to ask about certain personal details. You can volunteer information, but they cannot ask if you're married, if you have kids, if you plan on having kids, your age, your sexuality, and so forth. It opens them up to discrimination charges. But some sneaky hiring managers are still going to try to get you to disclose those details. Some might not mean anything by it, but others are looking for things that they consider to be liabilities. In my experience, I always talk about my kids in interviews, but this is where I draw my own personal line. And knowing your own personal lines is a very good idea. Know what your boundaries are before you start going for those jobs. I draw that line because if you don't have a company that acknowledges my job as a mother is valuable, I personally don't want you to benefit from my amazing work.
Yep.
That might sound cocky, but that's the way that I professionally play myself.
It's your call what you volunteer, and it shouldn't have any effect on your application, but sometimes it still does. And I'm sorry to say it, but this seems to happen more to women. If women are pregnant, they'll need time off. If women have kids, the assumption is they'll miss work for sick kids, school activities, and other things. Basically, women usually make most of the personal sacrifices for their families, and workplaces tend to punish that. But if you put work first, you're a bad mother. So there's literally no winning on that front. Moms, Neera included, do what works for your family. Prioritize what you need to, when you need to, and make your own decisions.
Here, here. Knowing that you're replaceable, yet knowing that what you bring to the table is solid enough to hold the table, isn't the worst way to handle an interview as a lady. Humility is an interesting line to walk in the interviewing process.
And at the end of the day, an interview should feel like a casual conversation where you get to know each other and determine if your goals are aligned. But be kind to yourself because it takes practice and confidence to conduct them well. I've seen a lot of posts recently about how applicants feel like they have to play a part in interviews. If I'm your hiring manager, that's the last thing I want. You should be a polished version of yourself. But I've said it about 23 times already today. I'm going to do it again. But to repeat my catchphrase, be authentic. I want to get to know you, not whatever made up version you think I would prefer. That's also not who's going to show up to work later. The real you is. So I need to know that ahead of time. Interviews are hard enough. So save yourself the stress of creating a new character. And rest assured, we've all had less than stellar interview experiences.
Ooh, tell us about one of yours.
Yeah. I did set you up for that, so I guess I have to. So I've had plenty not great interviews. I think we all have. And they were mostly due to nerves or just like having a bad brain day where I couldn't articulate my thoughts. One that comes to mind is an interview with a higher education nonprofit several years ago. And what's worse, my friend Ashley worked there and essentially got me the interview. So, yeah, it's a bad interview is embarrassing, but it's so much worse when someone you know goes to bat for you. You feel like you damaged their reputation by association, and that's just a horrifying thought.
So, what happened?
I don't even remember. Like I have PTSD. It was a phone interview. It was all of like 10 minutes. It felt rushed and combative. And frankly, I was scared. Think like rapid fire questions detailing very specific things. And me, a person who is supposed to be pretty good with words, I was flummoxed. I had no idea. So I did not get a second interview. And frankly, I'm grateful because I didn't want to go through that twice. So the point of that story is so that all of you out there there who say you suck at interviews, you need to know that we've all been there. At least these instances make for good party stories, eventually after it stops hurting so bad.
All right. Well, the second part of today's conversation is how to present yourself professionally. And by that, I mean how you speak, what your body language is, and how you dress appropriately, depending on your industry and workplace setting.
Yeah, I thought the interview topic was a good compliment here because an interview is a first impression, and that includes how you look. People also tend to plan interview outfits more carefully than the day to day looks after they land the job. You want to look polished and professional without feeling uncomfortable.
So, I am really excited to talk about this because I had serious problems here. For me, I was a young mother at one time entering the workforce. And after you've been washing babies, little behinds for 5 years, you haven't really been following fashion, and that can be difficult. Your body has changed after giving birth, and you already don't feel like yourself. You're a different person, and you have to learn how to dress for this new person. Who created a person or two? So now you're going through a body change and also fashion changing. My work clothes were now out of fashion or they didn't fit. Perhaps they weren't appropriate anymore because of how they fit. That was something I had to learn. I had a new body and I had to learn how to dress for that body. Growing up, I had always had, a size B chest. And now my chest is bigger because I have had children. So, Heather, I have to ask you so much about how to dress for my chest. And that was something I didn't ever have to learn before. And that sounds silly, but that is something I struggled with, I still struggle with, and you help me to this day.
So all bodies change. Let's get that in writing and underline it. Some more than others. So yeah, what you wore to work in your 20s is probably not what you'll wear in your 40s. But it depends on what's comfortable for you, much more than passing trends. My personal opinion is that style is about matching your personality with the occasion, and it's better to choose timeless pieces than chasing fads. So for men in white collar jobs, your interview outfit is often a suit. Black is probably fine, but it's usually too formal for day wear. Super partial to blue myself. It's professional, it looks good on everyone, and you can find whatever shade you're comfortable with. I like the lighter ones, but navy works too. Find a tie that pops like red or purple. But I'm no expert in men's fashion, so I'd like to use a lifeline if I could. Please welcome my husband, noted fashion icon, Matt Sowards.
The man, the myth, the legend himself.
Hello, how are you all?
Good, Matt. You're our first ever guest, except for Minnie the dog, who was in episode 1. So, congratulations. I hope you feel special.
I do. And really quickly, the strangest thing happened to me before I signed on. It was super wild. I was going to share it with you
Yeah.
before we get talking to our conversation here. I'm sitting here getting my space ready, trying to sign on for this Zoom, and I got a push notification on my phone from my weather app that said I needed to prepare for the afternoon to be much hotter. And I want to know how it knew I was going to hang out with you two.
Oh, that's so sweet.
There he is. That's who I married.
There he is, the charmer in a beautiful suit. Matt, I love the outfit. Way to be the star of the show. It looks beautiful. You're always well dressed.
And what is it, Matt? It's seersucker, correct?
This is seersucker.
Yes.
It is a nice summer seersucker that is cool and breathable whenever it is swelteringly hot outside, like it is right now, and super humid.
So we're talking about appropriate work attire for every day, and also those special pieces for interviews. What advice and recommendations do you have for men looking to land a job while in a white collar space?
Sure, and I think that's a great question. And a lot of time, we really get in our own heads about the interview and the interviewing process and how to, go in, say the things we're trying to say without looking like too desperate for a job, or we get really wound up in the psychological aspects of this. And I do think that the dress aspect also plays an important role there. That you're wanting to look the part, you're wanting to look professional and like you're going to be someone that a hiring manager wants to bring onto their team and wants to spend time with and interact with and just be part of that office culture. So generally speaking, whenever you're going into these interviews, I think it's best to have a good solid piece that you feel comfortable in, that makes you feel your best, that makes you feel confident, because then you're going to perform better. And that can be something like, a professional dark navy suit, or even just like a gray, suit that you go in, it's cut well, it fits right to your body type, and you feel like you're ready to perform well. And that goes a long way, I think, psychologically to helping you do better in these interviews and doing better in these environments and ultimately landing one of those positions that you're going after.
Matt, what are your personal preferences? Like, if you were interviewing tomorrow, what clothes would you choose?
Yeah, so I have, this one blue suit that I've just loved. That's kind of been my workhorse for a number of years. It's not quite dark navy, but it's a lighter blue without being, too far into the pastel range, right? So it kind of sticks out and is memorable. I also, I like to pair that, kind of like with a white shirt and then a tie that's got more personality to it. So again, kind of coming in looking professional, but letting little like nuggets of me shine through. And that can be done in, like a paisley tie or a knit fabric tie, something that is not so far, out in left field that you almost look kind of like avant-garde coming into a professional space, but still shows more of who you are as a person. So, if I am going in like tomorrow, near as what you were asking, I'm blue suit with a white shirt, and there's a really pretty purple paisley tie that I love with a white pocket square. Come in, I will feel confident. I know that it will look good because I've had that suit tailored and fits me well. So I'm not worrying if I'm like bulging at the wrong places or kind of looking like a busted can of biscuits or something, that I'm there looking my best so I can perform my best too.
That's really amazing. And I think I might just need to come and look at all of your outfits, and then I'm just going to start jacking your style. I am personally like very sensitive to fabrics and textures on my body. Can you tell me a little bit about some appropriate fabrics for different seasons? Maybe something that for people who are sensitive to the feeling and sensation of clothes on their skin.
Sure. I mean, one of the things I struggle with right now because it's so hot is coming into my office and not looking like a complete slut because it is so warm outside. You're wanting to, kind of look like, Magnum PI from the 80s with the short shorts and the deep V
Yes.
unbuttoned, and which you can't do in an office setting. But, there are a number of fabrics. Like the first thing that comes to mind being like a linen that, is light, it's breathable, it feels soft on your skin. So if you were kind of like sensitive to fabrics and you're wanting to have something that's not going to irritate you, linen is great. You have things like breathable cotton that can also be like super soft and allows for that kind of airflow so that you're not constricted, particularly in the summertime. You can do whenever you get into like fall and spring, there are really pretty things like tweed you can use as like an outer layer for like a tweed jacket that can be warm and still stylish and still looks interesting, particularly with the way the fabric is designed and the patterns on those fabrics that can be super cool.
So one more question. You talked about suits.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what we all think about when we think about men in the workplace, especially for interviews, because that is a little bit more formal. But what are some good fashion options outside of suits that are still like business attire or business casual and appropriate in a workplace setting?
Sure. So I really think we're in a neat place as far as menswear goes right now, because you can get so many different items at different price points that you can really kind of like let go wild in a lot of respects. shirts, whether it's suits or business casual attire like you were talking about a moment ago. And I say that to say this, there are a lot of cool things in like the polo shirt space. You can find knitted polo shirts, you can find, different colors and textures of polo shirts you can wear that's going to be completely appropriate in an office environment any time of the year. There are, a lot of fun things in like chino space and different types of pants that are also going to be appropriate in an office space with a lot of folks are playing around with different cuts and sizes that you can also experiment with to see what you prefer and what works best for you and your body type. That's really cool. But yeah, polo shirts, button downs, in anything that's not kind of like one of those graphic tees or something that you can get away with wearing in the office now. In the wintertime, you can even, just throw a cardigan over top of a well-made solid collar t-shirt and look super polished and professional, or, like good denim that you could cuff up to show off boots or something at the bottom of your outfit. All things that are going to be appropriate in, a business casual office or workplace or a casual Friday or something like that, if you don't want to do like a jacket and tie every day.
I love that. So I have I think two more questions, and then we'll let you go. One is, tell us about your fashion heroes. Name some names. I know that you really love a few people from old Hollywood, especially, and who you try to kind of mirror your style after. So talk about some of those and why you picked them.
I mean, I think whenever I think about timeless fashion icons, I immediately think of Cary Grant.
Yep.
And just the way that he could wear a suit to perfection. I mean, a lot of that's tailoring. I mean, a lot of what makes a suit look good is finding a tailor that you're comfortable with and can tailor a suit to you and to your body and to do it well. But I think of Cary Grant with things like suits and ties and jackets and things of that nature. We're talking about more of like casual wear, going back towards like Steve McQueen, who would wear chunky knit sweaters and things like that I just think is cool. I mean, this dude's just an incredibly cool person. Stepping outside of old Hollywood, I think my current fashion icon guru is Stanley Tucci, because he is another like bold bearded brethren of mine that also just always looks very stylish, very cool. I know if you watch his television programs, he's in Italy quite a bit, but he follows that also kind of like Italian style of relaxed tailoring and unstructured shoulders that kind of follow the drape follows your natural neck and shoulder line. It just looks really cool.
So my second question was actually going to be talking about the importance of tailoring, because
Yeah.
I know that is kind of a cardinal rule. Finding things that you love is one thing, but making sure it fits your body the way that you want it to is a whole other thing. So Matt, if you want to kind of wax philosophic for a second about the benefits of having a good tailor, knowing a good tailor, and kind of investing in those costs, feel free to jump in there.
Yeah, it's invaluable. It's absolutely invaluable that you can take a suit that is on the lower end of the cost point spectrum and have it look like $1 million if you have a good tailor. So it's more important to have a tailor, someone that you trust, someone you can work with, someone that can cut the material to fit you and to flatter you, more so than it is to go out and get like a brand name or spend a lot of money on something that might not fit you correctly. So first and foremost, if you have to choose between like buying an expensive item or paying a tailor, go to the tailor every time. They can make something that is inexpensive look near bespoke. But I do think that is one of the most important things you can do is investing in a tailor who knows you, knows how to cut for you, can help you look your best and feel your best in the attire that you've chosen for you.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
Will a tailor ever say no to you if the suit is too cheap? Like, I mean, aside from like if it's made to where it can be tailored, like, I mean, if it's not got holes in it, like if I get my stuff thrifted,
Mhm.
could I find a good tailor and make it look even more professional?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
The only time I have had instances where things couldn't be tailored is if like there's not enough material left on the item itself to do what you're asking them to do. So whether if example, like if you're trying to have something let out, if there's not enough material in the waist of that garment to be let out, they're saying, there's nothing they can do. But yeah, otherwise, it doesn't matter if it's thrifted or brand new or something that's been in your closet for a decade or more, that they can come in and tailor to how you look today so that you look good today and can step out and feel confident. And that's, one of the most important things, I think.
That's amazing. So then
Yeah.
you could actually have, if the suit you didn't get too much taken out to where it could never be tailored again, you could redo a suit.
Mm-hmm.
Holy mackerel.
Yep.
Okay. See, this is why I love doing this. Thank you, everyone. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be excited. This is exciting for me because I
Don't be
just
sorry to
learned.
be
I, w-
excited. It's great.
I was just talking about getting a suit, and this makes me feel better because it makes me feel like, okay, I don't need to feel bad that I can't get an Armani suit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can still look nice even in a suit that is was given to me, as long as, like if I get it tailored, you wouldn't maybe necessarily tell, except it
You would
doesn't say
have no
Armani.
idea. You would have no idea. And that's the thing. It is so
Okay.
hard to tell the difference between something that is 100% bespoke and something that you've picked up off the rack or have been given and just had tailoring done, had work done to fit you. And because most people are not going to be coming up like inspecting the threads on your attire, right? They're not going to be getting close enough to you to like feel fabric and weave and things of that nature. So yeah, don't get in your head about that kind of stuff as well. If you've got something that you want to wear, that you think that you look good in and want to wear out, yeah, have a tailor and then go rock it.
I love the excited Neera face right now. Like her mind is blown. And I also love doing this because we're also kind of teaching her some things through the
You
process.
always teach me everything. That's why I'm here. I'm just the technology editor and I'm here for free learning.
I think that's probably all we have. I know you have other things that you need to get to today, Matt, but we appreciate you jumping in, honey.
Thank you all so much. This has been fun. I do love getting a chance to talk about things that aren't work related for me personally. So talk about clothes and tailoring and fabric. And I wish I could be more eloquent about it, but it's a fun little passion project of mine. So thank you all so much for inviting me on and letting me be a little piece of this wonderful show that you've put together.
Thank you. And take a selfie of the outfit right now so that I can share it when we share this post too.
Oh, you think I haven't taken a selfie already?
You haven't sent it to me yet, which is why I asked.
Oh no, there's a whole camera roll.
Oh, great. Love it. Love it.
Well, thank you all so much. I'll see ya.
Bye,
Bye.
Matt.
So for women, there are significantly more options, but also more opportunity for error. And to be clear, before we go too far down this path, for non-binary and trans folks, you know what suits you best and what you're most comfortable wearing. You might like the suits Matt talked about. You might like skirts or dresses. You might like both or something more in the middle. We're painting with broad strokes here, and you get to determine what is applicable and what isn't. So I apologize for kind of using the binary terms of male and female fashion. That's just kind of easier for my mind. But I do recognize that there are a lot of other people out there, and you get to choose what suits you best. Generally, my advice for everyone is to overdress initially for interviews and those first few days in the office. And when you get a sense of what everyone else is wearing, you can adjust accordingly. Women can opt for pantsuits, dresses, skirts, and blouses, or dress pants and sweaters if that's more seasonally appropriate. Also, consider dressing more conservatively at the start, just to be cautious. Matt used to work in the Senate, and every year they had college age interns descend upon them for a month or two in the summer. Some of them got more guidance than others, and inevitably, a few would walk around the hill in clubbing clothes, like low cut tops, tight dresses, short skirts, etc. Um, our best guess is that someone told them to dress nice, and this is how 20-year-olds interpreted that. Friends, if you're interning somewhere, ask clarifying questions. And if you're mentoring or supervising students, provide examples without making assumptions.
And that is so important. I choose to basically present myself as I am a nice, polished gemstone of myself. It's still me. I'm just a different version. I want to show that.
Yeah, so it's worth noting you can be attractive and appropriate at the same time. They can exist in the same space. But there is a difference in workplace attractive and something like thigh high leather boots, or whatever. Like, there's a line there. Find what works and what's appropriate in the moment. The type of work environment is a significant factor here, too. Your peers dress more formal and more conservative in a law office than a small nonprofit, for example. One big part of this I want to clarify is that business attire doesn't have to be boring. I encourage everyone to showcase their personality with clothes. Don't be afraid of color, shapes, patterns, or textures. Find the right style for you, which could be completely different from your casual style. Have some fun with it, make a new thing. Matt talked a little bit about that as well, that it should be comfortable, but it should also reflect you. Your interview outfit should be striking, but comfortable for you to wear. Your confidence will take a hit if your shoes are painful or your jacket is too tight because you'll be fussing and fidgeting. At the very least, it will split your attention. So focus on properly fitted clothes. Find a tailor nearby if you can for pieces you love, but they aren't quite right. In my case, I'm fairly short, so pretty much all of my pants and long sleeves have to be hemmed. And on that note, you can dress up more for a 30-minute interview, but when it comes to day office wear, please be practical. Think about how much standing and walking you'll do and plan accordingly. I cannot wear heels all day. I know this about myself, but I definitely learned the hard way with a lot of blisters, a lot of bleeding feet, and it was awful. So be mindful of those situations before you get into them.
Exactly. Okay. So we've talked about attire and how you conduct yourself professionally in person, but what else should we consider?
There's no way around it. Employers will look into your digital footprint. 15 years ago, most employers didn't necessarily scour the internet looking for your information, but now it's pretty much a given. They want to make sure the person you're presenting to them is really you, and they're going to search your social media for any red flags. Obviously, you shouldn't post problematic or hateful things regardless, but even political opinions could be a problem if your employer disagrees with you. My best suggestion is to be mindful of what you post publicly at any time, not just when you're job hunting. Consider setting your profiles to private as well.
And that is such an important thing to note. For instance, Heather, you know this about me, and you have been so supportive and understanding. I was an actual signed model for underwear companies. I'm still proud of my work with Skims, Good American, Target, and Parade. They opened many doors and they have donated to many of the causes that I work with. But for me to be taken professionally, given where I live, and the work that I'm in now in medical, I chose to delete my Instagram. I chose to delete my Instagram completely because it just was giving too much room for confusion about who I am. I really had to look at my digital footprint and I decided I wanted to be taken seriously. These days and age, you have to be careful. And even though you are showing up to the office in appropriate attire, maybe it's still hard for your coworkers to think of you as professional or that you even deserve the job. So make the decisions that seem to fit right for you, for the goals that you are setting for yourself, because remember, the internet is forever.
Exactly. Choose what's best for you. If there's a hill you want to die on, more power to you. Just be aware how you present yourself in person and online in relation to your employer or potential employers down the road. And then there's LinkedIn, this weird in between of social media and workplace culture. Use it as much or as little as you want, but it can be a good tool to showcase your work, your network, and your goals. Post relevant content, engage in discussions, share completed work for yourself or your organization. If you're in a creative field, you can also create your own website or portfolio site that houses all of those highlights you want to feature. You know employers will be looking for you, so make the information you want them to see as easy to find as possible. And since we were talking about clothes earlier, make sure you have a recent polished photo for your profiles. A professional photo shoot is great. I can give you recommendations if you want them, but they can be costly. If you need to take your own photo, find good natural light and set a timer on your phone. Wear the striking interview outfit that you've picked out and go easy on the editing, crop accordingly. This is my own personal pet peeve, but please don't do the AI headshot thing. They never look exactly right. They never look like you. They tend to plagiarize from other sources. They don't capture your true form. They might have gotten better in recent years. I haven't been keeping track of them, but seriously, just like spend 5 minutes on a real photo, even if you take it yourself.
They haven't gotten better. No matter how much you incentivize and gamify it, this is still AI, and it shows because the humanity is lost.
Yeah.
I second Heather 1000%. Most of us have had a photography class here and there. Just find a friend and direct them to take your photo. LinkedIn is very important for social professional networking, and I can't recommend it enough. Yes, it is annoying, but it is also a really good place to at least study. What is everybody doing? What moves are these businesses making? What are they openly wanting to celebrate? It's a great place for analysis, and it will help you build connections.
There's so much to cover with all of these topics. So if you have questions or feedback or advice, please reach out to us. I'd love to hear your thoughts while we chip away at this boulder. And thank you so much for joining us once again.
Tune into our next episode, Advocate for Your Growth, where we'll be talking about career pivots, negotiations, and professional development. Working Women is available on Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube, so find us wherever you find your podcasts and music. Thank you.